Something bad always hits the rugby league world when you least expect it. But this? Mate, this one smacked the NRL right in the jaw harder than Nelson Asofa-Solomona ever did on the field. Picture this. Fans wake up, check their phones, expecting another Storm re-sign big fella headline, and instead, bam, rugby league's biggest unit has walked out. Not for another club, not for a cheeky stint in Super League, nah, the bloke quits the NRL entirely to punch people for a living. Yep, Nelson has officially swapped jerseys for gloves. And the wild part, he knocked back 7 clubs. 7! The whole league lined up like thirsty punters at last call, and Big Naz just said, "Nah boys, I'm off to chase a heavyweight crown." If your jaw isn't on the floor yet, hold it, because this story gets even messier. Before people even had time to argue in the comment section, news breaks that he's already signed a full-time boxing deal, $1 million a year. Let that sink in. $1 million to throw hands, skip the match review committee, and avoid getting suspended every time he breathes near someone's chin. And honestly, can you blame him? The man spent the last 2 final series watching from home because he kept getting benched by the judiciary. Storm fans were fuming, Craig Bellamy probably aged 10 years, Cameron Smith even said Storm would have won a grand final if Naz wasn't suspended. Imagine being so good your absence loses your team the premiership twice. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn. Everyone's talking about Naz the boxer, Nelson the knockout artist, Nelson the guy who ended Jared Wallace's night in 3 rounds. But nobody's asking the real question, the spicy one, the one that makes this whole situation way more unpredictable than people think. Is the NRL actually losing a superstar? Or is boxing gaining something it has no idea how to control? Because Naz isn't just big. He's not just strong, he's not just a scary dude, though let's be real, if he glared at me, I'd apologise for things I haven't even done yet. He's chaotic, he's unpredictable, he's a late-night Bali headline waiting to happen. He's entertainment value in human form, which means for boxing, he's a gold mine. But here's the cliffhanger that's going to sit in your head like an annoying fly at a summer barbie. The NRL didn't just lose a player, it might have accidentally created its biggest fight event ever. There are already whispers, big whispers, about a super fight, 2 giants, 2 codes, 1 ring. And if the rumours are true, this matchup will make Aussie fight fans go absolutely feral. You reckon the Paul Gallen fight's got traction? This would bury them. This would break every NRL podcast. This would have New Zealand involved. The entire Pacific would tune in. This would melt Australian Twitter, X, into a puddle. But here's the part nobody's admitting publicly. The NRL is secretly panicking. Because Naz breaking away and becoming a boxing drawcard opens the door for something the league has feared for years. Athletes realising they don't need the NRL to make money. And if one enormous barn-smashing forward leaves and makes $1 million a year throwing uppercuts, what happens when the next young star starts thinking, hang on, I can fight too? We're talking dominoes, mate. Big dominoes. Dominoes with protein shakes. But let's zoom back to Nelson for a second. The bloke played 215 NRL games. He won 2 premierships. He destroyed people with the ball. He destroyed people without the ball. He basically lived in the sin bin. And now he's stepping into a sport where destroying people is literally the job description? Tell me that's not a movie. Tell me that's not the most beautifully unhinged Aussie sports arc you've heard in ages. And let's not forget the moment that still haunts the internet. The Bali brawl, the punches, the chaos, Nelson standing there like a final boss in a nightclub alley. People still debate whether that moment was a mistake or a preview of what was coming next. Maybe boxing was unavoidable. Maybe the signs were there all along. Maybe Nelson was never meant to follow a rule book written in tiny print with 10,000 footnotes. Maybe he was born for a sport where the only rule is hit the other dude harder. But before you fully grab onto that idea, here's another question I want you to chew on. Did Nelson leave the NRL, or did the NRL push him out without realizing it? Think about the suspensions. Think about the criticism. Think about the constant talk around his tackling technique, his height, his aggression. Think about being labeled a liability and one of the best forwards in the game. In the same sentence, every single season. Tell me that wouldn't push a man toward a fresh start. And remember, this is only the start of the chaos. This is only the first chapter of whatever wild story Nelson's about to write. Because the fight world is unpredictable. It's theatrical. It's messy. And Nelson Asofa-Solomona fits into that world like he was sculpted for it. So here's the big question that should be buzzing in your brain after all this. Is Nelson Asofa-Solomona about to become the next heavyweight star? Or is he about to learn that boxing is a whole different beast than rugby league toughness? Because throwing hands at training is one thing. Throwing hands for prize money, under bright lights, with an opponent trained to hit you back, that's another universe. And that tension right there, that's the reason everyone, Aussies, Kiwis, league fans, boxing fans, chaos enjoyers, is glued to this story. But don't get comfy. You're gonna want to hang around for segment 2, because that's where we break down the secret player he's likely fighting next, and why the NRL is watching this whole situation like a mom who knows her toddler is too quiet in the other room. Before we roll into that though, make sure you're locked in with Across the NRL, because mate, nobody else is giving you the drama this raw. But here's where the whole thing gets wild, and honestly, this is the part nobody's ready to accept. If Ryan Papenhuyzen actually makes that move to Penrith, the backlash won't come from the fans. It'll come from inside the NRL power circles. Because a transfer like this doesn't just shift a roster. It rearranges reputations, relationships, and loyalties that have been locked in for years. And right now, Papenhuyzen is standing in the middle of a political storm he didn't create, but will definitely feel. Think about it. The Panthers already have a system built on discipline, structure, and absolute ruthlessness. They don't accommodate players. Players adjust to them. So Papenhuyzen walking in isn't just a signing. It's a test. Can he fit into a machine that expects you to be perfect every single week? Or does he crack under the same pressure that turned some players into monsters and others into memories? And here's the part that'll mess with your head. The Panthers wouldn't even pursue him unless they already believe something the public doesn't, that he can still become a top 3 fullback in the NRL if he's put in the right environment. That means Penrith sees a version of Papenhuyzen that Melbourne might have given up on. Now let that sink in. Because if that's true, this isn't just a career revival. It's a revenge arc. It's a storyline that flips the whole narrative, from injury-prone superstar fading away to the weapon Penrith needed to rebuild their dynasty. And when this deal starts heating up, when the media finally catches on, when fans start calling it betrayal or salvation, you already know where to come for the real story. Across the NRL, where the truth hits harder than a front rower on kickoff.